Picture this. You're standing in the echoing vault of St. Paul's Cathedral, London, July 1981. A river of white silk flows past your feet, the longest wedding train the world had ever seen. Trumpets thunder, choirs rise, cameras flash, and 2 billion eyes are watching. They call it a fairy tale, the wedding of the century. But in the hush beneath the music, you feel something else. Something that was never meant for you to notice. They told you it was the love story. A shy girl, a golden prince, and a nation spellbound. The perfect dream. But every fairy tale hides its curse. Behind the headlines and the gilded carriages, the archives whisper a different tale. In sealed Vatican letters, in censored government files and genealogies, conveniently forgotten there, lies a pattern too dangerous to speak aloud. For Diana Spencer was never just the people's princess. She was the echo of a silenced dynasty, one whose blood had been hunted, buried, and struck from the record for centuries. And when she walked down that aisle, it was not only a wedding, it was a ritual, a reunion of hidden dynasties, a binding of houses once sworn to destroy each other, cloaked in lace and pageantry, the world mistook for romance. The veil crowned her as bride, but it also marked her as sacrifice. And if this omen proves true, then the story you thought you knew was never the story at all. The files remain sealed, the evidence scattered, but tonight we will open them, one by one. The first folder is marked Spencer Confidential. Its leather cracked its seal, half broken, as though someone once tried to bury it. Inside, brittle parchment sheets and genealogical charts whisper a truth the press never told. At the center of the Spencer family tree, one name rises like a ghost: Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots. Through a maternal line, Diana's blood reaches back into the Stuart dynasty, a house dethroned, executed, and erased from England's throne. The baptismal records confirm it. The marriages, the births, all notarized, sealed, undeniable. But then the trail fractures. Parish volumes end abruptly. Pages are torn, names blotted in ink. In one ledger across a blank, where a lineage should continue, an archivist scrawls in Latin, erased for reasons of state. The deeper you search, the darker it becomes. A 1902 memorandum from the College of Arms, classified restricted access, warns any public association of the Spencer line with the Stuart claim must be avoided. Such recognition could reignite dormant disputes of succession. And there at the bottom of the pile, a single page makes your breath stop. Yellowed paper, stamped with the college crest. The genealogy, clear the trail, undeniable. But slashed across it in furious red ink, 4 words scream from the silence. Erased for reasons of state. The signature is gone. The date smudged. No official ever claimed it. But the meaning is unmistakable. Diana Spencer carried a bloodline too dangerous to acknowledge. The candle gutters. Shadows twist. Another folder slides into view, its cover stamped in heavy black ink, restricted. Inside, Vatican letters. Faded vellum margins, scarred with crimson underlines. One dated 1912 warns of a dangerous convergence of bloodlines should Spencer blood ever join with Windsor heirs. Another in 1936 whispers of the lingering Stuart claim hidden among English nobility. Authentic or forged? Scholars still argue. Some dismiss them as conspiracy. Others insist they belong to the Vatican's secret archive, filed under Successione Pericolosa, dangerous succession. And the trail leads closer to home. In Britain's own Foreign Office files, declassified decades later, a memo from the 1960s states coldly, in the event of marital alliance between Spencer line and Windsor heirs, public knowledge of historical genealogical claims must be suppressed. Acknowledgement could destabilize the crown. Stamped in red eyes, only Foreign Office. What was a schoolteacher doing in restricted files of national security? Unless she was never ordinary at all. And then the final folder. Its wax seal is cracked, the title blurred. Inside fragments, rumors, speculation collected like broken glass. One unsigned note speaks of a ritual marriage meant to reunite dynasties sundered since the 17th century. The phrase repeats dynastic convergence through symbolic union. The gown itself becomes evidence. A train stretching 25 feet longer than any bride before her, symbol of a bloodline, stretched across centuries. 10,000 pearls sewn into the veil, echoing the Stuart emblem of martyrdom. fabrics sourced from coronation silks. Coincidence or ritual? And then a rumor whispered in an intelligence note from 1979. Subject underwent confidential medical testing. Results confirm genealogical markers consistent with historical Stuart line. Recommendation: proceed. If true, it means Diana was not chosen by chance, nor by love. She was selected for her blood. To the world, her wedding was lace and vows. To those who guarded these files, it was something else entirely. A ritual cloaked as romance, a convergence performed before 2 billion witnesses. A bride, yes, but also a vessel, perhaps even a sacrifice. The files close, but the questions do not. Because once you see the bloodline, the erased records, the forbidden letters, you begin to wonder, who else knew? And if they knew, what would they do to keep it silent? For centuries, the crown has not merely been a family. It has been a machine designed to protect itself, to polish its image, to decide who belongs and who must be cut away. Every marriage, every child, every rumor has been calculated, contained, or destroyed. And Diana's entrance into that machine was never smooth. From the first moment, she was cast as an outsider. Not royal enough, they said, too young, too naive. But behind closed doors, those whispers carried another tone. She knows too much. Her presence unsettles the balance. Her blood does not belong, and yet it belongs too much. Consider this: her very popularity was dangerous. The world adored her in a way it never adored Charles. To the people, she was the true monarch, the beating heart of the kingdom. But to those who understood her genealogy, this was more than popularity. It was recognition. Instinctive, unconscious recognition of a hidden queen. And then came the children. William and Harry, hailed as heirs to the Windsor line. But through Diana, they also carried Stuart blood. The blood once erased, now throned again. If history had been different, if Mary Stuart's descendants had been recognized, William himself could be seen not as Windsor's heir, but as the rightful continuation of the dynasty England had tried to kill. The machine could not allow this thought to take root. Not in the people, not in the press, not in the future. And so the tightening began. Stories twisted, rumors planted. Diana branded unstable, dramatic, unfit. The fairy tale soured into tragedy before the world's eyes. But beneath the headlines of jealousy and divorce, a darker narrative was unfolding. Diana was becoming too powerful, not despite her outsider image, but because of it. She threatened to eclipse the monarchy itself. And a monarchy, built on centuries of blood and shadow, cannot survive being eclipsed. The evidence grows darker still. Former intelligence officers whisper of surveillance. Friends recall her confessions. They are going to get rid of me. I know it. Letters surfaced after her death, where she predicted an accident in a car. Her brakes failing, her life cut short. And then Paris, 1997. A tunnel, a car crash, a death the world still calls an accident. But to those who have read the files, who have seen the erased names, the red ink, the Vatican warnings, it felt less like coincidence and more like the final act of a ritual. The union had served its purpose. The heirs were born, the dynastic convergence complete, the vessel no longer necessary. And just like the name of Mary Stuart, before her, Diana's story was struck from the official script. Rewritten as tragedy, packaged as accident, closed forever. But the blood cannot be erased. It lives on in William, in Harry, in the children who carry both Windsor and Stuart veins. A living reminder that history's ghosts never vanish. They wait buried under ink and stone until someone dares to open the file again. And so the question haunts the silence. Was Diana's death the end of a love story gone wrong? Or was it the inevitable conclusion of a ritual begun centuries before she was even born? The machine still runs. The archives remain sealed. But you have seen enough to know the fairy tale was never what it seemed. When a story grows too heavy, too full of whispers and redacted files, the mind searches for proof. Cold proof. Something measurable, clinical, immune to myth. And yet, when science is summoned to explain Diana's fate, it does not silence the whispers. It only makes them louder. The first trail lies in genealogy by blood. Modern researchers have traced DNA markers in the Spencer line that align strikingly with documented descendants of the Stuart dynasty. Mitochondrial patterns, carried silently through maternal lines, appear again and again. To the untrained eye, they are just sequences of numbers. But to those who study dynastic bloodlines, they are a ghostly fingerprint, a genetic echo that survived centuries of erasure. Unofficial reports claim that before Diana's engagement, confidential tests were conducted. A blood sample taken under medical pretense, its results sealed. The rumor is simple. Chilling the test confirmed what the files suggested, that Diana's body carried the Stuart code. A bride chosen not by chance, but by design. And then comes the body itself. After her death, the autopsy became a battlefield. Official statements speak of high-speed blunt trauma, tragic accident, but independent doctors poring over leaked fragments of the report have pointed out anomalies. A curious absence of toxicology detail, a missing window of time between the crash and the declaration of death. Even the embalming performed with suspicious haste erased evidence before questions could be asked. Some theorists go further still. They suggest her body was treated not as a person's, but as a relic secured hidden, preserved in a way that recalls how monarchs of old were handled when their deaths threatened to fracture the realm. In whispers, you still hear it. She was not buried. She was interred as a symbol. Psychology, too, leaves its trail. Diana herself spoke on tape in letters of forces circling around her. They are watching me. They will stage an accident. Skeptics call these paranoia the mind of a woman under unbearable pressure. But psychologists studying trauma suggest another possibility. Hypervigilance, yes, but also pattern recognition. A subconscious awareness of threats real enough to warp her sleep, her speech, her trust. Her fears once dismissed, read now like prophecies. And still, science tries to catch what slips between its fingers. Why did Diana captivate the masses, as no royal had before her? Sociologists call it charisma, empathy, the psychology of the underdog. But others reach for stranger terms, archetypes, collective memory. They argue that the public did not simply love Diana. They recognized her, as if the body remembers what history erased, as if millions saw in her face the reflection of a queen lost centuries ago. Even the symbols that science cannot quantify, her dress, her pearls, her untimely death in a tunnel, become data points for those who dare to look. Ritual analysis, fringe anthropology, even esoteric genetics all try to map meaning where logic falters. And yet, after all the testing, the reports, the psychology, the data, one conclusion remains: nothing is certain. Every scrap of science points to a shadow, not a shape. Every answer begets another question. What is undeniable is this: Diana's blood carried a history that frightened those in power. Her body bore signs of secrecy and death. Her mind sensed a danger she could not name. So what then is science in the face of power? A scalpel or a veil? The scalpel closes. The test tubes are sealed. The psychologists put down their pens. And yet, the silence they leave behind feels heavier than the questions they tried to answer. Science dissects the body, but what of the shadow it casts? Science measures the blood, but what of the myths it carries? In the flicker of a candle, you begin to see it. Every veil, every pearl, every torn page in an archive is more than fact or fiction. They are symbols, codes written in silk and ink, speaking a language older than laboratories, older than kingdoms. And if you listen closely, beneath the data, beneath the reports, you hear it. The hum of something vast, the pulse of power itself. This is no longer about autopsies or DNA. This is about what the body means. And Diana's body, her blood, her death were not only biology, they were prophecy. What remains when the files are sealed, when the autopsy fades, when the scientists close their ledgers? What remains is not data, it is symbol. And in monarchy and power, symbols are everything. Consider the wedding veil. To the world, it was beauty. To the machine of power, it was concealment. A veil crowns and blinds in the same moment. Diana wore it as a bride, but in another light, she wore it as a sacrifice, her identity absorbed into a role larger than her body. Consider the pearls. 10,000 sewn into her gown, each shimmering as the cameras flashed. Pearls have long been the emblem of purity, but also of mourning. In Stuart heraldry, they were tokens of martyrdom. And so, in wearing them, was Diana crowned in innocence or marked as a martyr before the ritual had even begun. Consider the blood itself. We treat blood as biology, red cells, and oxygen. But in history, it has never been only that. Blood is contract currency curse. Dynasties rise and fall on the story of blood. The crown itself is nothing but a tale told in veins, who carries it, who does not, and who must be erased when the story threatens to change. And consider the body. To us, flesh and bone. To the state, a vessel. To myth, a sign. Diana's body was all three at once. A woman who laughed and wept, yes, but also a container of lineage, a relic of power, and in death, a symbol polished into legend. She ceased to be herself the moment she stepped into the cathedral. She became property of history. Philosophers speak of the body politic, the idea that kings and queens embody the nation, that their flesh is more than their own. Diana's tragedy proves this idea was never metaphor. Her body was transformed into theater, into ritual, into warning, because monarchy is not a family, it is a machine. A machine that consumes people and produces memory. It erases, edits, rewrites. It feeds on lineage as fuel and spits out myth as smoke. The smiling faces on balcony railings are not people. They are the cogs of a system older than democracy, older than the state itself. And in this machine, memory is weapon. To remember the wrong queen is treason. To trace the wrong bloodline is heresy. That is why Diana was so dangerous. Not because she was beloved, but because her body reminded the world, if only subconsciously, of another lineage, another possibility. A path history tried to burn and bury, yet still alive in her veins. So her story became the ultimate paradox. She was adored because she was human, but she was sacrificed because she was more than human. In her, the fairy tale collided with the archive, the bride collided with the relic, the woman collided with the myth. And now what remains is philosophy. If blood can be erased by ink, what does it mean to belong? If love can be rewritten as ritual, what does it mean to love? If a body can be turned into symbol, what does it mean to live freely at all? Perhaps this is the true horror of monarchy, not that it kills, but that it transforms. It turns mothers into martyrs, daughters into dynasties, women into omens. It rewrites flesh into myth, and myth into silence. And in Diana's silence we hear it, the hum of the machine still running, still consuming, still erasing. The echoes fade, the symbols veil pearls, blood settle into stillness like dust on the floor of a forgotten cathedral. What was spectacle now feels like residue. What was fairy tale now tastes of ash. You feel the weight of centuries pressing down. The weight of archives, locked of voices erased of names, struck out in red ink. The hum of the machine grows quieter here, but not weaker, like the breath of a predator waiting in the dark. And in that silence, one thought claws at you. Perhaps Diana was never meant to survive her own story. Perhaps she was written only to be erased. So here we are, at the end of the tale that was never meant to be told. A wedding that was not only a wedding, a love story that was never truly about love. A woman who was more than a princess, more than a bride, she was an omen. Diana's blood carried echoes of a dynasty once struck down, yet never destroyed. Her body became a relic of power. Her death, the silence of a ritual complete. And still, the machine grinds on, polishing the myth, erasing the memory, consuming the past to protect the present. But blood does not vanish. It flows forward. It lives in her sons, her grandchildren, in faces that stand today at the heart of Britain's monarchy. Which means the question has not died with her, it has only shifted. If William, heir to the throne, carries the Stuart code through Diana, then what truly flows in his veins? Windsor. Or something older, something buried. And if history tried once to erase that bloodline, how long before it tries again? Perhaps this is why the fairy tale still grips us, not because of lace and crowns, but because we sense it. Deep down we know we are watching not a family, but a ritual unfolding in real time. A ritual that may yet demand another price. So I leave you with this, darklings. Was Diana a victim of love gone wrong? Or was she the final sacrifice in a centuries-old covenant of blood? Tell me
Was
what you
she a
believe
victim
in the comments below.
or the final
And
sacrifice?
if you dare to follow this trail deeper into other dynasties, other erased names, make sure you like, subscribe, and return. Because the archives are far from empty. And somewhere in the silence of those sealed chambers, another file waits to be opened.